All right, let's jump right into the Eagles situation and break down what is really going on behind the scenes. The biggest headline that has everyone talking is the sudden wave of offensive coordinator candidate. He's pulling out of the process. It is the kind of thing that immediately raises eyebrows. Because when a team like the Eagles is searching for a coordinator, you expect a lot of interest and momentum. Instead, it has felt like a slow leak, with names dropping out one after another. And it leaves you wondering if there is something more than just a normal coaching search. People have been speculating nonstop about why this is happening, and the theories range from the obvious to the downright wild. Some fans are quick to assume that the Eagles' job has become less attractive, like something changed behind the scenes that we are not seeing. There are whispers about Nick Sirianni having too much control over the offense, or about the front office making decisions that make candidates uncomfortable. Others believe it is simply the nature of the market right now, with so many teams searching for coordinators and head coaches, that the competition is brutal. But the idea that keeps coming back is that some candidates might actually see this job as a stepping stone, not a final destination. Think about it. The Eagles are one of the top teams in the league, with a roster loaded with talent and a real chance to win right away. If a coordinator comes in and does well, they are basically putting themselves in the perfect position to become a head coach the next season. That thought alone could be enough to make someone hesitant. If a coach believes Nick Sirianni's job is not secure, they might decide they do not want to be the offensive coordinator under him. Instead, they might prefer to wait it out and hope they can land the head coaching job themselves. It is a bold strategy, but it is not unrealistic. The NFL is a league of timing, and sometimes the timing just does not line up. The interesting part is that when you look at the Eagles roster, it is hard to argue that the job itself is not attractive. The team is stacked with talent, and there is a real chance to win immediately if you can implement your system effectively. But it is not just about the roster, it is about the environment. Coaches want to feel like they can build something and bring their own staff, not just walk into a system that is already set in stone. The truth is, some candidates may be worried about being micromanaged or not being allowed to bring in their preferred assistants. That is a real concern, especially for coaches who want to have a long-term plan and build a culture of their own. When you hear that some coaches are pushing for their own offensive line coach or defensive staff, it is easy to understand why they might be hesitant. If the front office is controlling, it can create friction and make the job feel less appealing. Another factor that might be influencing the situation is the Eagles' reputation within the league. In the NFL, stories spread fast and perceptions can become reality. If coaches and agents start talking about the Eagles being difficult to work with or to controlling, that can turn into a serious deterrent. It is one thing for fans to complain on social media, but when the narrative gets into the coaching circles, it becomes a real issue. High-profile candidates are very aware of their career trajectory, and they do not want to risk being stuck in a situation where they cannot fully express their vision. If they see the job as risky, they may decide to pass. And then there is the question of who is actually available. Some names that Eagles fans were hoping for have started trending toward other teams, and that can be frustrating to watch. It creates the feeling that the Eagles are being passed over, and it makes fans question whether there is a plan or if the front office is just reacting. The reality is that coaching searches are complicated. Coaches have to consider stability, staff control, and the direction of the franchise. If any of those elements feel uncertain, it can push a candidate to look elsewhere. At the same time, the Eagles have shown that when they get it right, they can make a hire that changes everything. Look at the move to bring in Kellen Moore and how it led to a Super Bowl run. That kind of success sets a high standard, and it raises expectations for every future hire. It is easy to look at the current situation and feel like something is off, but it could simply be a different market and a different year. Not every coaching search is going to be smooth, and sometimes it takes longer to find the right fit than fans would like. While the coordinator search is ongoing, the Eagles are also making internal moves that matter. One of the most notable updates is the promotion of Joe Casper. Casper has been working with the secondary for a while, and now he is stepping into a larger role. This is significant because it shows the Eagles are trying to maintain continuity within the coaching staff, even as they search for an offensive coordinator. Promotions like this send a message that the organization values internal development and trusts the coaches who have been part of the system for years. It also highlights that the Eagles are looking to build stability on defense. even if there are questions about the younger players. What makes Casper's promotion even more interesting is its connection to Christian Parker moving up to defensive coordinator. Parker's rise is another sign that the Eagles want to keep the defensive identity intact. The Eagles have always been known for a strong defensive culture, and maintaining that consistency is crucial. Even if there are concerns about some of the young talent, the organization seems confident in the direction of the defense. Casper stepping up into a bigger role shows that the Eagles are investing in internal talent and trusting coaches who have proven themselves within the system. Now, shifting to the quarterback situation, which is the elephant in the room, it is impossible to scroll through social media without seeing trade scenarios and hypotheticals about Jalen Hurts. The most absurd one is the idea of trading Hurts for Joe Burrow, with multiple first-round picks attached. It is the kind of speculation that makes you shake your head, because it is not grounded in reality. That kind of talk only exists because of the narrative created by the media, and it does nothing but create chaos and distraction. The truth is that Jalen Hurts is not the problem. He has proven he can win at the highest level, and he is a Super Bowl MVP for a reason. Yes, he has had some down years and injuries, but that is part of being a quarterback in this league. If you look at Joe Burrow, he has a similar history with injuries, and he has also had to deal with a weak offensive line at times. The difference is that Burrow has never really been able to stay healthy for a full season, and that is a major risk. If you trade for him and he gets hurt, you could end up setting the franchise back for years, and there is no guarantee that the results will be better. And then there is the question of what happens if the Eagles miss the playoffs. With Hurts, people act like that would be the end of the world, but it is not. Even if the team has a down year, Hurts still has the ability to lead and win in big games. The issues could be related to the offensive line, the coaching staff, or roster construction. It is not always as simple as blaming the quarterback. Another factor that might be affecting the coordinator search is the uncertainty around the roster, especially A.J. Brown. If coaches are unsure whether Brown will be in Philadelphia next season, it makes it harder to commit to the job. They want to know what weapons they will have, and if the roster feels unstable, they may decide it is not worth the risk. Coaches want a clear path to success, and if the future looks uncertain, they may look elsewhere. So, in the end, the reason candidates are withdrawing is less about Hurts and more about the perception of the organization. The Eagles are a great team with a talented roster, but the coaching environment and front office dynamics are what people are questioning. And while it is easy to blame the quarterback, the reality is that the Eagles have been successful with Hurts, and they have a system that can win. The real question is whether the team can maintain that success while navigating a messy coaching search. Now, as we move deeper into this offseason saga, the biggest thing to keep in mind is how the narrative is shaping the entire coaching search. When a team is looking for a coordinator, especially one as crucial as an offensive coordinator, you expect a buzz of excitement. But with the Eagles, what we have seen is a quiet exit strategy from multiple candidates. And that can be more telling than any official statement. It is not just about who the Eagles want. It is about who is willing to take the job under the conditions that exist. When candidates start pulling out, it creates a sense of hesitation and uncertainty. And that is exactly what the Eagles are dealing with right now. One of the most repeated criticisms is that the Eagles front office has too much control. They have built a culture and identity that has been successful. But the question is whether that success comes at the cost of limiting the freedom of the coaches they hire. When you are a coordinator, you want to be able to build your system and bring in the staff you trust. If you are going to be boxed in or micromanaged, it makes the job feel less like an opportunity and more like a restriction. That is not the kind of environment that attracts high-profile candidates who are looking to prove themselves and eventually move up to head coach. They want autonomy. And if they feel like they will not get it, they may decide to pass. Another big issue is the perception of Nick Sirianni's job security. If candidates believe he is on a short leash, they may not want to come in and be associated with a potential failure. The NFL is a league where reputation matters, and a coordinator who joins a team and is forced out after a year because the head coach is fired can find it difficult to land their next job. That risk can be enough to make candidates hesitate. It is not just about the team's talent or the chance to win. It is about the long-term career implications. If the perception is that Sirianni might not last, candidates may decide it is safer to wait for a head coaching opportunity or take a job with more stability. But it is important to remember that the Eagles are not the only team facing these kinds of issues. Coaching searches in the NFL can be messy, and sometimes it is simply a matter of timing. Teams may take their time, and candidates may decide to wait for a better situation. That said, the Eagles are in a unique position because they are a contender. If you are a coach looking to win right away, the Eagles should be an attractive destination. They have the pieces, the culture, and the support, so it is worth asking why more candidates are not jumping at the opportunity. The bigger picture is also worth considering. The Eagles need to think about their long-term future, and that means planning for how the team will evolve over the next few years. The roster is talented now, but there are always questions about how long that talent will remain intact. Players age, contracts expire, and injuries happen. The team has to prepare for all of that. If coaches sense that the roster is not going to be as strong next season, or if they are unsure about the direction of the franchise, they may be less inclined to take the job. Coaches want a clear path to success, and if that path looks uncertain, they may look elsewhere. The media environment in Philadelphia is also a factor that cannot be ignored. The Eagles have one of the most passionate fan bases in the league, and the media scrutiny is intense. For some coaches, that kind of attention is appealing. It means they will have a platform, and it means they will be in the spotlight. But for others, it can be overwhelming. The media can amplify every decision, every mistake, and every rumor, and that can create a lot of pressure. If coaches feel like they are going to be under constant scrutiny, they may choose to avoid the situation altogether. The last thing a coordinator wants is to be blamed for something that is outside of their control. And in Philadelphia, that kind of narrative can spread quickly. Now let's bring the conversation back to the quarterback situation, because it is the biggest topic of discussion among fans and analysts. The Jalen Hurts debate is constant, and it seems like every new rumor or trade scenario creates more chaos. The most ridiculous example is the idea of trading Hurts for Joe Burrow. The logic behind it is that Burrow is a top-tier quarterback, and the Eagles would be getting a proven talent. But when you look at the details, it does not make sense. Burrow has struggled with injuries throughout his career, and while he has elite weapons, he has not been able to stay healthy consistently. If you trade for him and he misses significant time, you could end up setting the franchise back for years with no guarantee of improvement. FlyEaglesFly News family, smash subscribe and hit like. Your support keeps the freshest Philadelphia Eagles updates flying in. Drop your take in the comments and let's talk birds. The NFL rumor mill woke up roaring after a stunning leak began circulating through league circles. The Philadelphia Eagles may be preparing one of the most shocking blockbuster moves in recent memory, sending star wide receiver A.J. Brown away in a deal that would bring elite edge rusher Max Crosby to Philadelphia. At this stage, nothing is confirmed, but the mere possibility has already sent shockwaves through front offices and fan bases alike. Sources close to the situation suggest that internal conversations have taken place around a radical rebalancing of the Eagles roster. Brown has been a centerpiece of the offense since arriving in Philadelphia, embodying physical dominance and big play reliability. Moving on from a player of his stature would signal not dissatisfaction, but strategy, a willingness to sacrifice firepower on one side of the ball to build something potentially devastating on the other. Crosby's name alone explains the intrigue. One of the league's most relentless pass rushers, he represents the kind of defensive cornerstone capable of changing game plans before the ball is even snapped. The idea of pairing him with Philadelphia's aggressive defensive identity has already ignited the imagination of analysts who see a scenario where pressure, not points, becomes the Eagles' calling card. Still, skepticism remains. Trading a proven offensive star for a defensive force is a gamble, especially in a league increasingly driven by aerial attacks. Some insiders believe this could be posturing, a calculated leak designed to test market reactions or push negotiations elsewhere. Others insist the conversations are real and advanced, fueled by contract considerations and long-term roster philosophy. For now, the league waits whether this rumored swap becomes reality or fades into speculation. One thing is certain: the mere whisper of A.J. Brown for Max Crosby has already altered the conversation, reminding everyone that in the NFL, no star is ever truly untouchable. That's a wrap from FlyEaglesFly News. If you want the fastest Eagles updates, subscribe, drop a like, and turn on the bell. Sound off in the comments. Let's talk birds.